Hi. So, first things first. Yeah! Shit, I'm gonna wake up the neighbors here. Love you guys. Thank you. October 10th, 2019. Let this mark the day that we, all 1 million of us, came together. Thank you. I'll do something more proper to celebrate this down the line, but I just, I don't know what to say. I just love every single one of you, and I wouldn't be here without you. So, thank you. Now on to less celebratory news. Blizzard. So, last time I talked about how the government, the US government, has gotten involved in expressing their discontent at Blizzard's decision to suspend Hong Kong Hearthstone pro player Blitzchung for saying something that insulted the Chinese government. And so, if you want to know everything about that, check out my previous videos. Just a basic rundown of what's happened since. We have seen all kinds of protests, backlash, what have you, Twitter, Reddit, you name it. You go through those and search for anything Blizzard related. You'll see that sentiments against Blizzard are at the worst they've ever been. It makes Diablo Immortal look like a whoopsie daisies. And then yesterday I talked about this incident where during a college tournament, the American University team members decided to put up this sign saying "Free Hong Kong, boycott Blizzard," leading to Blizzard cutting away as quickly as possible and trying to do some damage control on that front. This is most shocking of all. Turns out that Blizzard's Chinese social media talked about how they will respect and defend the pride of our country meaning China. And this is a more, I think, accurate sentiment on Blizzard's part. Then we have this incident involving people taking to social media and forums to use Mei, a Chinese character within Blizzard's own Overwatch, as a symbol of the Hong Kong protest, which is very fitting and very powerful, I think. Tim Sweeney, though I don't fully trust in his words, says that if he were in the same situation, he wouldn't capitulate to the Chinese government. Again, hard to say for sure, unless we put him in a similar situation, see how he responds, given that Tencent owns 40% of Epic. And then on top of all that, we have seen Blizzard employees engaging in protest as well. People from within Blizzard are disapproving of this, and one way they're enacting demonstrations is by covering up these plaques that feature messages of value such as "Think globally" and "Every voice matters," which is just obviously very hypocritical and just ironic given Blizzard's recent actions. This right here goes completely counter to how Blizzard reacted to Blitzchung's support for the liberation of his country. But it doesn't just end there. Blizzard employees have been protesting in more ways than one, as detailed here by this article from news outlet The Daily Beast. The headline reads, "Blizzard employees staged a walkout to protest ban of pro-Hong Kong gamer." This article begins with the following excerpt. "A small group of Activision Blizzard employees walked out of work Tuesday afternoon to protest the company's actions against the gamer who expressed support for pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong during an official live stream." So one employee, a longtime Blizzard employee, told the Daily Beast this: "The action Blizzard took against the player was pretty appalling, but not surprising. Blizzard makes a lot of money in China, but now the company is in this awkward position where we can't abide by our values." And then another Blizzard employee said, "I'm disappointed. We want people all over the world to play our games, but no action like this can be made with political neutrality." And then it says right here, the employee spoke on condition of anonymity for fear of professional consequences. That's perfectly understandable. And then in terms of the details surrounding the walkout, this right here reads, "Protesting Blizzard employees from multiple departments gathered at an iconic statue of an orc warrior charging into battle in the center of the company's main campus in Irvine, California, starting around 10 a.m. Pacific time. The demonstrations numbers fluctuated throughout the day, the two employees said, ranging from a dozen to 30, and the protesters departed sometime in the late afternoon. The protesters would have been visible to executive offices, which overlooked the main plaza, the two employees said. The company did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And just for reference, that orc statue looks something like this. There's this circle surrounding it, and featured on the circle, prominently highlighted, are various statements and quotes that pertain to Blizzard's supposed values, and among them was what was stated here: think globally, and every voice matters. From there, the Daily Beast talked about how there's actually a picture of this online. A person claiming to be a Blizzard employee and using the handle Standing WHK posted a picture to Reddit and Imager that showed roughly 20 employees involved in the demonstration. Several employees held umbrellas, a visual symbol adopted by protesters in Hong Kong. 2 current Blizzard employees authenticated the photo to the Daily Beast. And going to that image in question, this is what that looks like. You can see these are Blizzard employees around the statue where the plaques with the so-called values are. And yeah, they're just kind of saying this is not acceptable for Blizzard to do, to shut down conversations surrounding democracy and liberation of a country like that, to punish a player to the severity that they did. It was so extreme that it felt like how China would punish someone for speaking out against them, rather than how an American company would kind of follow tournament rules or whatever Blizzard's excuse is. And then more Blizzard employees spoke to the Daily Beast. And according to this excerpt, quote, one of the employees who spoke to the Daily Beast felt that the protest signaled a new era for Blizzard. The company has been complying with government censorship requests within its games in order to keep doing business in one of its biggest markets, he said. Doing business in China, it's been easier to ignore the authoritarianism of the government because they were asking us to do things like remove a skeleton from a game, he said. The stakes are so much higher now. What was previously an obvious decision is much less obvious now. It's important to keep in mind that American companies censoring themselves to appeal to the Chinese market to make it easier for them to sell their games in China is nothing new. Diablo Immortal, recall that when Blizzard announced that title in that infamous BlizzCon event, BlizzCon 2018. During one of the press conferences, they talked about how they wanted to make Diablo Immortal a more family-friendly game or something. It reads right here, if it's about the maturity of the content, Diablo Immortal for the mobile device is being designed so that everybody can play it from all ages. And so where some of the PC products are mature rated, our goal is that this will not be mature rated. Given that NetEase is heavily involved in the development of this project, given how important the Chinese market is when it comes to the launch of this game, especially given NetEase's involvement, it's easy to imagine that this was a decision made in order to, again, appeal to the Chinese market, to make it easier to sell this game in China in a way that the Chinese government will not disapprove. And then we have this article right here from November 3rd, 2018, highlighting how Rainbow Six Siege censored its own content while it was getting ready to launch the game in China. So blood was removed from certain maps. Suggestive imagery like this was just outright replaced. We can see right here, slot machines were completely removed from one of the maps because apparently imagery of gambling is just too much for China's market to bear. More violent imagery like a skull, for example, was completely replaced with something that doesn't quite look like a skull. And icons like a knife were replaced with a fist, and then skulls were replaced with this right here. But of course, in Blizzard's situation, this is all far more severe because there are political implications. They're not just censoring themselves, they're censoring somebody else who supports their own country's liberation. And that's what's garnered so much backlash for Blizzard, especially in this day and age when we're hearing more and more about these kinds of stories where American companies like the NBA, for example, are bending the knee to the Chinese government and the Chinese market. And that brings us to this tweet. Charlotte Mather claims in this tweet, quote, "So now Blizzard have disabled all 4 authentication methods to actively stop people from deleting their accounts. This is beyond disgusting. Spread awareness of this." So a big part of the movement against Blizzard right now involves boycotting their products. So we have seen people en masse across social media and forums post their screenshots showing them deleting BattleNet, uninstalling BattleNet, deleting the games from Blizzard that they've played. And many people are even going as far as just completely deleting their Blizzard account. So getting rid of all of their Blizzard purchases, all of the progress that they have in certain games, so on and so forth. And in Charlotte's attempt to do that, this is what happened. It reads right here, "Due to too many attempts, email code has been locked. Please try another method of verification." And apparently, these authentication methods are not working. And a lot of people have been reporting this as well. So here's another Twitter user who reported something similar, showing their screenshot that displays the same message. "Due to too many attempts, SMS protect code has been locked. Please try another method for verification." Now, it's hard to say for sure if this was intentional on Blizzard's part or if this was some kind of bug or glitch on the website, maybe due to the traffic, the number of people, the sheer volume of people trying to cancel their accounts. Because for some people, deleting their account works. And according to this Reddit user, account deletion works again. So it would seem as though they tried once, it didn't work the first time, but then a few hours later, it worked fine. So maybe it was a glitch or a bug or something to do with just how many people are flocking in to do this. And then Polygon reported the same. This headline reads, "No, Blizzard isn't blocking people from deleting their accounts." And it reads right here, "Whatever the case, at the time as of today, Polygon has had no trouble submitting a ticket to delete a Blizzard account." It varies from case to case. This is something that I don't want to make definitive declarations on, but I want to show you guys both sides of the fence. And that brings us to another prominent individual who has taken to protest Blizzard's recent actions. We've got casters and streamers like BMK Gaming, who is very popular in the esports scene and among the Blizzard community, expressing his discontent at everything that's happened. Now, in these first 3 paragraphs, BMK Gaming looked at things from both sides of the fence. On one hand, he said that what Blitzchung did was very brave, speaking for the liberation of his country despite the potential ramifications and potential danger to his own life. On the other hand, he did say that he doesn't believe Blizzard didn't have the right to issue some kind of penalty, but then down here he says that there are additional factors at play, and he talks about how far Blizzard went to the point where it definitely feels like they are appeasing to China rather than enforcing tournament rules. It reads right here, "All that having been said, there are additional factors at play here. The punishment meted out to Blitzchung is incredibly harsh. I could understand a fine or even a short suspension from competitive play, but removal from Grandmasters, clawing back the prizes he already earned, and banning him for a full year seems completely overboard to an extent that feels completely unwarranted and unfair. I won't pretend to understand either the intricacies of the geopolitical situation in China and Hong Kong or the full extent of Blizzard's business interests there, but to me, this penalty feels like it is deeply rooted in both. The heavy-handedness of it feels like someone insisted that Blizzard make an example of Blitzchung, not only to discourage others from similar acts in the future, but also to appease those upset by the outburst itself. That kind of appeasement is simply not something I can in good conscience be associated with. When I learned about the ruling, I reached out to Blizzard and informed them that I no longer feel comfortable casting the Grandmasters finals at BlizzCon. I will not be a smiling face on camera that tacitly endorses this decision. Unless something changes, I will have no involvement in Grandmasters moving forward." And then finally, he emphasized that not everyone has the luxury to be able to do that. Not all casters and streamers and employees at Blizzard can afford to partake in this kind of protest. So he asked that people don't lambast those people, because ultimately it isn't up to casters, streamers, and kind of ground floor employees at Blizzard to make these kinds of decisions. And I think that's a great sentiment. I think this was extremely well said, and given BMK Gaming's prominence in the esports and Blizzard scene, I think this statement will certainly spread and make a big impact. Next up, I want to bring this up again, the college Hearthstone players who, during an official college Hearthstone tournament, put up this sign right here that reads Free Hong Kong and Boycott Blizzard. Turns out that website Vice reached out to these students to ask them about their thoughts on this whole situation, and here is how Vice reported on that. So here is a quote from 19-year-old college student Casey Chambers, one of the 3 American University team members on the stream, and he said this: "I have 15,000 rounds of Hearthstone. I am done. The game we lost last night was my last game of Hearthstone ever." And then it reads right here, all 3 on the stream, Casey, 19-year-old Corwin Dark, and another player who wanted to go by their online handle, T-Jammer, felt the same about Blizzard's response to Blitzchung. So Dark here said, "When we met for practice that day before the tournament, we were all thinking the same thing, that we wanted to do something, because obviously we were the first thing on Blizzard's stream after they made the decision. If we did nothing, we were missing a pretty big opportunity." Dark also added, "We liked that because it would force Blizzard to either pan away from our camera," which they actually did, "or cut our camera off," which they did a little bit during the match. And then the article further extrapolated on the situation with this paragraph: "None of them have heard from Blizzard about what happened, though at some point the company will have to talk. On Thursday, they're supposed to continue forward in the tournament. Either way, they don't plan to continue playing in the tournament, but they do want Blizzard to make the decision to kick them out and ban them because of their protest." So basically, these college protesters, they're still in the tournament, but they're wondering if Blizzard will actually go out of their way to officially ban them, which would be extremely bad optics. And even if Blizzard decides not to ban them, according to the college students here, they're not going to play in the tournament anyway, because they want to express support for Blitzchung and protest against Blizzard. And then Chambers right here added, "Us getting banned is probably the correct decision, but what's so disconcerting about the Blitzchung situation is that it wasn't just a fine, it wasn't just a 1-week suspension from Grandmasters, it was, you're gone, everything you've earned up until now is gone, and oh, by the way, the 2 casters who just happened to be on the stream while his protest took place are also fired." And then Dark added, "It was clearly designed to send a message to somebody." And that's literally exactly what BMK Gaming said right here. And that's the sentiment that just about everyone has when looking at this whole situation just from an outside perspective. All right, so now let's move on to Rod Bruslow, who's been kind of on top of this whole situation. He's been a major figure in just spreading the news about all this. He is an esports consultant, and he's just been partaking in interviews with various news outlets. And one of the outlets that Rod Bruslow did an interview with was Yahoo Finance. And there was some interesting exchange here that I think is worth highlighting. So let's check out this segment that I feel people should know more about.
But has this created an opportunity for Epic Games, for example? Because they're saying, you know what, we're not going to do this to any of our gamers. You can say whatever you want. You can have your political opinions. As an American, we're not going to penalize you for that.
Yeah, no, I saw this story this morning, and I got to say, not totally convinced yet.
Me neither.
By Epic's statements. I mean, I cover Epic for a living, and I see what they're doing. I think it's definitely was an opportunity for them, while Activision Blizzard is getting kicked around for the past 48 hours, for them to get some pot shots in about how they would never do such a thing. But everyone should remember that the company that you mentioned, Tencent, really is the key in all of this. Tencent 100% owns Riot, and they own League of Legends. They own 45% of Epic Games, which is Fortnite. They own 5% of Activision Blizzard. They own 10% of Ubisoft. They own 50% of PUBG. They own pretty much half of the entire gaming community on top of being the main partner of the NBA. So one company... if you think about all the conglomerates like Google or Facebook or whatnot, this company, Tencent, really owns all of our major companies, and that's how much power they have and why a lot of the American companies don't have the leverage that they want to.
Yeah, or at least pieces of some of our major companies.
Yeah, so that was a great rundown of just how many companies are significantly influenced by the Chinese market. How many of these game companies are at least in part owned by these Chinese conglomerates, and the kind of dangerous precedent that all sets. And then Rod Bruslow tweeted this segment from Fox News, and regardless of what your thoughts might be about Fox News, the fact of the matter is that when it comes to this issue, the more the word can spread to as many people as possible, the better. And from what I saw in this clip, the issue was summarized and highlighted pretty well. So yeah, word's getting around. The fact that all of these media outlets that are outside of the realm of games are covering this goes to show that this is no longer just a niche gaming controversy. This has now become an international incident that's garnered the attention of the general masses outside of the gaming crowd. So this is just a much bigger story than I think Blizzard ever anticipated, the Blizzard higher-ups, that is, who made the decision to suspend Blitzchung. So yeah, this is an updated look at what's been happening since Blizzard suspended Blitzchung and essentially pull the pin of what I can only describe to be a nuclear PR grenade. It'll be interesting to see how Blizzard and or Activision respond, if they do that at all. And with BlizzCon right around the corner, they have to say something, because otherwise that event is going to be disastrous. They're not just going to be able to host that event and pretend like nothing's happened. They will not be able to host that event without addressing the elephant, no, the dinosaur in the room. So let me know in the comments below what your take is on all of this, on these recent developments. Let me know how you think Activision Blizzard will handle this situation. Let me know how you think BlizzCon will go. Do you expect that to go smoothly, or do you expect that less than a month from now people will not forget? Drop a comment below, whatever thoughts and opinions you have, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.